get into tea time, which is really just the meat of the conversation. And you and I were in a clubhouse and we were talking about Mean Girls. And it's so weird because recently, so many people have been reaching out to me, telling me just horrible stories of experiences that they've had with other women. And I'm not talking about little tips or little disagreements, but just really hurtful things that people have done or people have said that really cause significant harm to the individual. And it's one of those things where it is Women's History Month, right? We do want to celebrate women and we do want to acknowledge women, but then we also have to speak our truth and say sometimes we are just mean. And so I wanted to start the conversation there, but then I wanted to elevate it to the concept of high value women, just so that we leave on a high note. So I'll start by saying, how do you define a mean girl?
I mean, a mean girl is somebody that doesn't know her own worth. So she projects her insecurities off on somebody else. A mean girl is that you can be a nice, nasty person. That's a mean girl. You come across as you're super sweet, but then, there's that nastiness at the end that you're like, oh, what? So to me, a mean girl is just somebody that just they're not confident in themselves. So they're going to tell me I look ugly just because they're jealous. There's some jealousy. They have some heart issues, some things that happen to them throughout their lifetime that they haven't healed. A lot of times, if you meet a mean woman, if you meet her mama, her auntie, and her grandma, we see that it's generational, that they've carried it from generation to generation. You're like, why is she mean? You meet her mom, you're like, oh, now I see why. Or you see what issues they had growing up that made them insecure and made them feel like the only way for them to be worthy is to put somebody else down.
Right. Yeah. Wow. That says a whole lot. So I was trying to think like, okay, what do I think a mean girl looks like or sounds like, or like, how does that translate? And I was kind of stuck, I'm gonna be honest. So I said, you know what, I'm going to be very basic and I'm going to look up the word mean. And mean means a lot of things, right? Because it comes into mathematical terms and all kinds of things, right? But it essentially, in this context, it means petty, selfish, or malicious. And those are some really hard words to swallow, right? Or even just to attach to a woman, because again, we all know that women are amazing and phenomenal, right? And we have done, especially during this time right now, like women are we have Kamala Harris in the White House, but why do you think we're mean? You kind of gave some background saying that it can be generational, but I think that a lot of people don't think that they're being mean. And by other people, I mean us included, right? There could be times where we could be playing the mean girl and you just may not be aware. So how have you experienced a mean girl?
I think sometimes people may not be aware, but 9 times out of 10, they're aware of their behavior. People just let them get away with it. So I will check somebody if you're mean to me, or you'll just see me disappear. And not that people can call that passive aggressive, but if you come at me with like a mean girl spirit, I just bounce, because at this time of my life, I don't have time for that. And also too, I think it's like how you're socialized. That's really big. Did your mom or your parents check you when you were playing the mean girl? Did they make you invite everybody to the birthday party? If not, like that's how it like starts, I feel. Did your parents make you feel special? I feel like everybody's special, but you don't discount somebody else because they're different. So I think it's a lot of times stems from that. But also too, if I've been hurt in a relationship, if I don't heal properly, I'm gonna go out and hurt the next person, hurt the next dude that comes my way. So a lot of times as women, we've been hurt by females in our friendships. We feel like somebody betrayed us. We don't fix the situation. So it turns us into a mean girl. Like me and you could have been friends 10 years ago, but you stole my pen when we were in elementary school. And I'm still trying to get you back for that because I felt some type of way. And then also too, for me, sometimes we don't realize that there's a whole piece of the pie. There's a whole pie. You can have a piece. Sherry can have a piece. Chanel can have a piece. We can all be beast or boss chicks in our own right. We just got to allow each other to flourish. some people don't want to see you succeed. So that turns into the mean girl, the hater.
Mm. You said a whole lot. Like, I'm going back to how people are socialized. And I know that on Red Table Talk, they did an episode. They kind of talked about the mean girl, and they talked about how, Meg the Stallion kind of came out and said that she was in this toxic relationship and she got shot in the toe, and everybody was kind of mocking her and making fun of her, and nobody was really concerned about her well-being. And she's out here being vulnerable, saying, hey, I'm literally hurting, and you guys are using it you're making memes, like you're literally mocking me, right? Like how hurtful is that? And so when I hear you say how people are being socialized, it makes me think, one of the things that they said on the Red Table Talk was they used the example of Friday, when one girl was outside and she saw her neighbor walk by, and she was like, hey girl, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as the girl turned around, she said, I can't stand that bee. Right? So it's like just kind of putting on this facade, which kind of takes me to another topic. But I think that we do intentionally have to teach girls and women, young women, and ourselves, right, how to intentionally be nice to each other. Because I do think that there's so much nastiness that goes on that we overlook, because we think like, oh, they were just joking, or that's not a big deal, or oh, I don't care. But it's like, no, it's mean spirited. Like the root is bad, and it's going to manifest itself in a larger scale situation that could be more detrimental. And I think it does start with, like you said, how people are being socialized. Because even when you think about how do people talk about their daughters, right? Like women, this is another female to female relationship, right? But mothers tend to talk about their sons in one way and talk about their daughters in another way. Like when you hear mothers speak of their daughters, how do they describe them?
I mean, for me, what I've always experienced from my mother is like positive. She's only going to pour positivity into us. You don't see like her jealous side. If she has one, we don't see it. She's just happy with what she has. But then you do see on the flip side of that, some mothers that don't even want their daughters, they're jealous of them because they're trying to compete for the love of their dad or their father, which is their husband. And I'm like, when I look at some of those women, I'm like, they're jacked up. But then I'm like, oh, it's because your mom made you be like that. Like you were in competition. And we were just blessed that we didn't have to go through that. So sometimes I hear people talk negative. Like I had somebody tell me, I hate my daughter. But I'm like, well, why? So I asked. I shouldn't have asked because it wasn't appropriate. But I'm like, why do you hate her? And I come to find out she was almost 50. Her daughter's like in her 20s. They're competing for the same men. So you're like your daughter? I'm like, you need to go ahead and just start talking to people your age. Start living your life the way you should be, but you're still stuck trying to be like your daughter. And you're jealous of everything that she has. So that's a heart issue. Because you don't like where you are in life. So you're going to project it back on your daughter. She didn't ask to be here. Right. But instead you have that whole jealous, we're in competition. You, as a mother, you should never be in competition with your daughter. Right. If you got stuff together, that's your daughter. It's not your bestie. That's your daughter.
Right. It's your daughter. And so even when I was thinking about like, not even just mothers and daughters, but even like female teachers and a female student, right? Or you could take this relationship as far as you want, but a lot of times they'll say that the daughter is bossy, right? And I mean, like, those are not, those, again, these words are very tiny, right? Like very minimal impact, but over time, that can affect the way that the child sees themselves, right? Bossy, usually they say that like little girls need a lot of attention. They'll say that they are sassy. They say that they are, that they might have a smart mouth, right? But like when you hear a female teacher talk about a little boy, they tend not to do that as much. So there tends to be some sort of tension between the female to female relationship, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I could say too, my dad would tell you I have a smart mouth, but that smart mouth has got me into situations or at tables that I typically wouldn't have had access to. So I didn't let those words affect who I was and make me into this mean girl. I just use it to my advantage. People know that like, I'm not coming to play. I'm going to focus on the facts. That smart mouth will get me seats at the table that some people will be like, oh, we shouldn't say that. Yes, we should, because you've got to speak your truth. So we've got to teach our young girls and even our women how to turn what people have told you that's somewhat deemed negative, how to spin it into a positive. I'm bossy, but you're PMP. You know how to manage a project. So I need the bossy girl to be telling us how to manage this project, because that may not be my skill set. We need the talkative girl to talk our way into us having a seat at the table. We also need, like my sisters of the world, the creative people, to teach us how to heal. It all makes the world go round, but we've all got to be able to respect each other's gift, because we all don't have the same gift. I don't have the gift that you and Chanel have of hosting a podcast. Yes, I do one, but when I see y'all, I'm like, y'all are setting the standard for me. Or like my sister, she's got the gift of healing through the arts. That's not my gift. And when I'm walking in that purpose, or like another woman's purpose, there's something wrong with my heart. I have anxiety. I can't sleep because I'm not doing what God told me to do. So sometimes our mean girl spirit comes because we want what somebody else has, but that's not what God has for you. When you walk in your gift, the mean girl spirit goes away because you're doing what God purposed you to do.
Right.
I didn't mean to go to church, but that's what I felt. The spirit just led.
Look, that's what this conversation is all about, right? It's for you to just speak your truth, say your piece, be spirit led. But no, when you said she talks too much, I was like, oh, that is definitely one that, in particular, mothers and daughters, like the mom will be like, she talks too much, things like that. But no, it just made me think that we really do have to nip that in the bud, because then you sort of, you just duplicate it, right? You think that it's okay for me to talk bad about my daughter, my sister, my mother, right? My friend, the people who I love, and words matter, right? And so one of the things that you were sort of starting to say, and you know what, it just left my mind, but I was like, oh, I'm going to come back to that. I wish I knew what it was, but whatever. In any case, so we talked about what mean girls are. What is like one of the worst experiences that you've had, and how were you able to, or what were you able to make out of it?
So I'm gonna talk on a very high level. I'm heavily involved in the community, and I had one individual that was like a mean nasty to me. It's like smiling in your face, but then really cutting you down in the back end. That type of individual put doubt in my head that I couldn't send an email, that I wasn't being a great leader, that I couldn't even keep my team motivated. I did that for a while because I care about the work that's being done. I don't need any type of recognition, but I do want to be treated with respect and do what's fair. So what I did was I bounced. Like, bye. That's how I dealt with it. I mean, but it took me a long time. I won't tell you how many years, but I did finally bounce, because I had to see that my service wasn't worth my sacrificing myself, because it was killing my self-esteem. I'm up here doubting myself. My sister would even tell you, like, girl, just go. But I'm like, no, I really care about helping people, but I can't help people when I'm hurt. And also too, with that, I was like, I've got to get out, because I got to set the standards for the women that are coming behind me. So I can be like, no, there's a better way.
Right. Yeah. There's absolutely a better way. No, wow. Yeah, you said a whole lot, without saying much, but why do people do the nice nasty? Like, why, if I'm gonna be a mean girl, why can't I just be mean? Why do I have to sugarcoat it and pretty it up and make it, like, why do I have to create a facade?
Because they want to protect their brand. And they think people are ignorant. I mean, you'll be like, oh, they're just having a bad day. But after a couple months of it, you're like, no, this is just how you are. I ain't got to deal with that. So you want to protect your brand. You want to be in the community like, oh, I'm so nice. But then come to find out you're really not. Because if you check some of the emails or the phone calls or the conversations you've had with people, is that what Jesus would say? I'll say it like that. Let's check it to what Jesus would say. It's not. You wouldn't even tell your mama that. Let's be real.
Right.
Mama will cuss you out if you talk to her the way you talk to some of the people that you're like around. And it's like, no. And we've got to hold people accountable. When you see it, call it out. This is my year calling it out.
Yeah.
Like, no more mean girl.
Yeah, and you know what? Your sister is kind of working on this campaign. Is it No More Mean Girls?
No more bullying, something like that. I know she's gonna text me while I'm on here, like, yeah, that's the name of it.
Yeah, I think it's No More Mean Girls, but she had a chance to again use her genius in the arts to kind of figure out what the appropriate words were for this pledge, and so I'm excited to kind of see that start and matriculate its way through. And I hope that we all eventually can take this pledge and just, let go of some of those things. But to your point, if it's a heart issue, right, then there's some work that needs to be done, some introspective work. Now that we talked about the mean girls, child, let's talk about, have you heard the concept of high value women?
No, I've heard you mention it, but I haven't really looked into it. I'm just gonna be transparent. This is me. Like, you'll have to explain it a little bit.
Okay. So it's one of those sort of, I'm going to say trendy words right now, right? So I'm going to say that high value man is probably more trendy, and people are talking about high value women mainly just in comparison to high value men. And so the reason why high value men is very trendy right now is because this young man by the name of Kevin Samuels, I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but he's sort of supposed to be like a relationship expert or whatever. And he has a lot of women look to him for advice, and he can be very, I'm just going to say tough in his delivery in terms of giving them feedback. And there was this one young lady who, it's No More Mean Girls. Okay, it's No More Mean Girls. All right. But so this one young lady was saying that she was looking for a 6-figure earning man, how she started earning 6 figures, et cetera, et cetera. And the feedback that he gave her was, you're average at best, ma'am. A high value man isn't going to want you, blah, blah, blah. So he came up with his own definition of high value man, which was basically you have to earn 6 figures. You have to be accepted by other men that earn 6 figures. You have to make a significant impact in your community, like have the ability to employ others or provide, a significant opportunity to them that could be life-changing. And he has some other qualifications as well. And so then he started throwing around the word around high value women. And I'm going to say that this is his definition, right? Not necessarily ours. This is his. And if you were to Google it, you find a bunch of different definitions because these are words that people are just sort of making up, right? So the definition is very loose. But he's saying that she has to be attractive. She has to be appealing. She has to have comforting character. So he was saying, like stand apart. Everybody is looking to her to kind of hold things together, to be for her advice. She has to be discerning. So have good judgment. Like, who does she hang around? Can she be trusted? She has to be disciplined. So does she get up and work out and exercise, right? She has to have some sort of standard that shows that she has a good discipline. She has to be enthusiastic, meaning like, does she inspire other people? Do people feel better when they're around her? Is she loyal? What is her loyalty to, right? Is she loyal to like reading, learning, growing, developing herself, or is she loyal to drama or mess? If he can see that she's loyal, then he will know that he can trust her, right? Because he can go off and get into different business ventures and know that she's not going to be like, what, you did what? Like, I'm out. But if she trusts him, she'll say, you know what, he's skilled in this arena. He knows what he's doing. I'm with him for the risk. So again, those are his ideas around high value women. I'm curious as to what your ideas are when you hear the word high value woman, or how would you classify a high value woman?
I'm so sorry. I'm so taken back by his laundry list of like the perfect woman. that I can't even think straight right now because I'm just even enthusiastic. Like, yeah, we're gonna be your cheerleader, but like, are you gonna cheerlead for us, or we just gonna be barefoot and pregnant all the time? Because
Right.
what he sounds like he wants is a barefoot and pregnant woman that don't think for herself, to let you do everything. I do believe that as the man that you are the head, but the neck is just important. Like he was talking about the neck, the whole body, every part's important. I feel like he's lost. I feel like he's lost some of that. Why I gotta have six figures to have value? I mean, you should want to level me up because as a man, you should want to lead me. I'm sorry, he didn't got me off on a tangent. He didn't got
Right.
me hot. But
So, well, actually, so his requirements for a woman, there is no income requirement.
oh, okay.
He's saying that a high value man has to have six figures, but he's saying for the high value woman, there is no
And
income requirement.
even from that, sorry, the caveat, even from that, from the high value man, you don't have to have six-figure income. Like for me, the same of what I would bring to the table. I'm going to be trustworthy. I can be your cheerleader, but I'm also I can be your helpmate because I feel like I am your helpmate. But that does not mean that I'm your slave or your maid. So I will double your joy and decrease your sorrow, but I'm not going to be a slave. I'll cook for you. I'll clean. It may not be the way your mama does it or the way you like, but you're going to accept it. But for the most part, for high value woman is a woman that loves herself, that ain't going to take no BS. Because I can be honest, I've taken BS before, but that's that woman that's confident in herself, that knows it's okay to be alone until she finds the right person, that she speaks her truth, but she does it not in an arrogant way, but she does it to where she still lets people have respect for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
She's not disrespectful. She's accountable for her actions. So if she messes up, she's okay to say, I messed up. And she's willing to learn. And I feel like that's important because there's so many people like, no, I've done this for 40 years. I'm not going to change. I think we've got to be able to change,
Mm-hmm.
be acceptable to change and be okay with that. Some things I know aren't right, but I've got to be willing to change for the better. And sometimes it's for the better.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think about. And the biggest thing is going to be that confidence because and when I look on social media, I saw so many broken women that don't have that self-confidence in themselves. Sometimes even I don't, like that they don't feel like they're worthy, but realizing that they're worthy to have that seat at the table and not question God all the time.
Right. And that's why I think a lot of people do want women, right? Friends, family, support of other women, right? To help build up that confidence. Like you see so many women in all these groups, these Facebook groups, right? And I'll see people post things like, hey, I'm in Arizona or whatever. I need some friends, right?
Right.
Like I'll see people do that. So then it makes me think, okay, so we want sisterhood, we want support and love and all that from other women, but then why are we mean? But we'll come back to that. But I agree. I don't necessarily subscribe to everything that he mentioned on the list. I do think that some of these things are important, right? I do think that character is very important. I do think that you do have to have a discerning spirit. I think that that's actually one of the greatest gifts that I think women have, right? It's being able to just kind of sense what some people need, right? Sometimes you need people to say
Right.
what it is that they need, but the people that you're close to, a lot of times you're just able to kind of sense what they need and kind of meet people where they are, being able to get in the trenches with people when they're at their lowest lows and raise them to the highest highs. I think that's such a beautiful gift. I agree with what you said around accountability, but I would also add that women are multipliers. Like I think that a high value woman, if I were to come up with a definition of a high value woman, I would say that she is indeed a multiplier. Like you can never give her something and have her give it back to you the same way. Like she's absolutely going to finesse and stretch that thing and make it into something great. So I would add that to the list. And then I do believe in discipline, right? I think that you have to be disciplined about your purpose and disciplined about your calling. So it depends on where your area of focus is, right? So when you are, like you said, focused on your talent, your gift, your purpose, then you don't have time to dabble in the minutia of other things that don't serve that purpose, right? He said loyalty. I agree with the loyalty, man. Like that's big for me. That's big, especially, you know, the loyalty behind my back. That's big. That's really big. And you know, and because with loyalty comes trust. So can I share my deepest, darkest secrets with you, right? And know that it's in a safe place? Or do I have to worry about somehow, you know, it being spread on social media or something? So loyalty is really big for me. So what, can you give me an example of a really good relationship that you have with a woman and kind of describe what that looks like?
Yeah, I have several. So I'll just start off with my mom. I'm very much so, as I've gotten older, just like her, but it's good. Like we may get upset with each other, but we just agree to disagree, and then we come back. We never really go to bed mad at each other. And I think that that's showing me how it should be. My mama's not up here calling me a B, you a, you a this, you a that. And I've seen that with some other people, and I'm like, your mom called you what? My mom's never done that. My mom's made sure to let me know that she's my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And because she's loved me and she showed me what love should be like from a female, I have no question about when I recognize that it's not love, but it's something that you have this impossible, you're being fake towards me. So I'm able to recognize the difference between the two. Then also, me and my sister have a great relationship from a female standpoint. Now we're both stubborn, very much so, very similar. So that's when we may butt heads, but we were raised like you don't go to bed mad at your sister or your family member. So we always corrected. So I can't say it's perfect, but we really work towards having a great relationship. And I think we both put the work in. I'm total opposite of her. I'm very much so detail oriented. But she's grown to be that way. I want to know exactly what we're doing for every second. And she's more free. But we've had to learn how to compromise between the two of us on what that looks like for us at our best. So I think that those are the best examples for me because that's where those are my two first friends.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You know what? I agree with you 100%. Lakita is absolutely a free spirit. And every time she always says that I remind her of you. Like if she'll send me something, I'm like, but what is this and how and when and why? And she's like, haha, she'll literally just laugh and be like, you are just like my little sister.
Yeah.
You know, but like you said, eventually we compromise, we get on the same page, or at least in the same book. I just need to be in the same book. And then there's some things where I just kind of sit back and say, you know what, you are totally operating in your purpose. I'm going to be honest with you and say that this is very uncomfortable for me because I have no details and I don't do well in this space, but I trust you, right? So I'm going to stay along for this ride and see how it goes. And it always turns out amazing. That is like that's how it always goes with me and Lakita. I start off very uncomfortable and then I'm like, you know what? We've done this before. You know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing, but you know exactly what you're doing. But yeah, but I think that as long as you can understand what the other person needs and give people the room to operate, like you said, in their gift. For me and my mom's relationship actually now is really great. But when I was younger, so I was never really like a child that would talk back or like call names and stuff like that. I was a very quiet child, a very shy child. So I'm not going to do that. But I absolutely had a lot of like resentment for my mom because I just didn't really understand a lot of things that she did and, you know, the mind of a child. So just different things I guess, I don't know. I think maybe I just internalized it. And I was just like, you know what? She really just, um, like if I were a mom, I don't think I would do this. Right. But then as I got older, I realized, you know what? There were a lot of things that I learned about my mom that I just didn't know. Right. I learned that my dad had a whole addiction. Right. And I didn't know that. So that affected a lot of decisions that my mom made. And in retrospect, I don't think I could have done any better than she did. And quite frankly, I think she did a very great job, because I don't know what I would have done. But as a child, I absolutely felt a certain level of neglect from her and felt like, where were you? Why weren't you here? I just felt very unwanted. And then as an adult, I was able to have those conversations with her and kind of say things that I never felt that I could say, because whenever I would say something, it was always minimized and like it wasn't important. And so that's what it kind of taught me, right? Is that this doesn't matter. And so as an adult, when I was able to say those things and she was able to say, you know what, I didn't want you, you know, but it wasn't personal. I just didn't want a child with an addict, you know? And then I was able to say, who would? I wouldn't want that either. But then it was just able to, you know, just kind of get to the place where you can say, you know what, that's her truth and that's mine. Right. And she was able to acknowledge, you know what, I did slight you as a child. I didn't see you. Right. And I can acknowledge that. And now I'm going to do everything I can to be everything that I should have been to you back then. You know, so I think that, you know, some relationships can be tough, obviously. Right. And, you know, people always say, and I actually made a post about this on Instagram, because, you know, like last year, it was always like, check on your strong friend, check on the strong friend, the strong friend, the strong friend. But then nobody really knows what to do. So they'll be like, are you all right? You okay? But if you actually be like, actually, I'm not. No one knows what to do when the strong friend actually says that they're not okay. So that post was really just more so about, you know what, when somebody actually shares with you that things aren't okay, don't minimize it. Anytime the strong friend be like, you know what, I'm actually really upset. I'm actually really hurt. They'll be like, you shouldn't be hurt. You shouldn't be upset. That's not what happened. This is not what that was. And you're like, I just effing said that this is what this was. So I think it's one of those things where to get the relationship, this female to female relationship, we have to be able to listen with a heart to hear and to be empathetic. Go ahead.
I agree. And also too, not judgmental. So I have some girlfriends that'll say they're down for the cause and that they really respect me. But if I bring a problem, I promise you, I feel like they have judged me. And I feel worse when I've talked to them after I leave. And they're like, well, you don't tell me anything. No, because you're judgmental. I don't need you to judge me. I need you to be my friend to listen. You might need to dry my tears, but you judging me is not the way to go. And sometimes they're like, well, you won't talk. And I'm like, I've learned to hold it in because I don't want to be judged. You shouldn't be judging me because you ain't perfect. And if I told you how I felt about situations that you're going through, then you get in your feelings. And I'm like, well, this is how you treat me. So I think that's, some people want you to be honest with them. They want to be honest with you, I should say. But when you're honest with them, it's like, there you go being mean. I'm like, I'm not being mean. I'm just giving you the same treatment. So
go ahead.
I mean, for me, somehow we got to figure out how to work that out. You either want the truth or you don't want the truth. And don't say because I'm your girl that you can say whatever. That's not the case. My sister don't say whatever. What makes you think because you're my girl, you going to say whatever? Well, we should be able to be honest. Cool. It's going to be twofold. When you're honest with me, I'm going to be honest with you. That behavior was ghetto. You should never do that again. But then your feelings are hurt. But you don't care about my feelings. It's like you said, that empathy, but also to knowing how to have your filter. Just because I'm your girl don't mean that's an open can, like, hey, I can say what. No, you can't. It's like using your discernment to know what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and what you shouldn't say. Sometimes just because you're my girl doesn't mean you should be the messenger. I didn't necessarily call you to be the messenger.
No, that's good. That's good. My mind is just swirling right now. But no, I agree. We do have to figure that out. And the whole concept of people not being able to accept what they give it is weird. If it is a one-sided relationship, and like you said, they care about their feelings, but not yours. And then to the point where if you do dish out what they take, they would never accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's where we have to be accountable too. And we have to not accept it. You know, like that's where we got to draw the line too and say, you know what, that's not cool. If this is how this is going to be, then it doesn't work for me.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes, unfortunately, that's where it ends up going. But sometimes that's for the best, right? Because it's just like, that's just not, if that's how you operate, I don't want to change you. I don't want to disrespect you. I want you to live your truth and be your authentic self. But I also need to be my authentic self. And I need to be around people that respect me. So, yeah. But no, you said a whole lot. I'm like, ooh. But that filter and the idea of just not being able to say anything, and you said my sister wouldn't just come and say anything. Yeah, that's, and we wouldn't do that at work, right? And we wouldn't do that with we always would modify the conversation to fit whomever it is that we're speaking with. So yeah, I absolutely agree, right? I wouldn't talk to my niece the way that I talk to my brother, and I wouldn't talk to my brother the way that I talk to my mom, because they're all different individuals, and I have to respect whatever their boundaries are.
I agree.
That's good. That's really good. From mean girls to high value women. So what do you think? Do you think that we as women naturally want to have those bonds and those relationships with other women?
I think we do, but I think too, we just have to figure out what it really should look like. I feel like we've gotten off track of what it should look like. So Keita and I grew up on a farm. Back in the day on the farm, they had some let me just go ahead and say they had some messed up relationships, because if I hear stories from people about this one was with this one's husband, but they had a sense of community. At the end of the day, if there was a fire or if there was something bad happened in your family, the women showed up for each other in support. I don't see that as much now. Everybody's in it for like, what's in it for me? And that's not the way we need to be in our relationships. Yeah, you should gain something, but you also should be given something back. So I wish we could go back to the basics, back to before social media, where we weren't comparing ourselves so much to so many different people. When you look at them on social media, they have it together, but they really don't. Their house may not be in order. 9 times out of 10, it's not, but they look pretty their life looks pretty on Facebook. So I feel like if we could go back to the basics, I think that women do want those types of relationships because they're important. Because we've heard our grandmas talk about those different relationships that they've had. But now there's so much division based on socioeconomic status, your race, and et cetera, that I just don't understand when it doesn't have to be that big divide. Yeah. Woman or woman, we should be able to have each other's back, because if one woman hurts, the next woman's hurting as well. And just because you may be a different color than me and you have a seat at the table, they don't want you there either. Right. And when you recognize that, they're going to minimize your voice, but united, we can be a powerful voice.
Right. Absolutely. And you know what? I was just talking to one of my sorority sisters today, and I was just telling her that I am convinced, like absolutely convinced, that we are a powerhouse when we're together. Like I've witnessed, I've been a part of some amazing things happen when we're all on the same accord and we all agree to support the same mission. So I do think that there is a cost to the mean girl spirit. I do think that there is a cost to the nice nasty, to the, all the things that we talked about. There is certainly a cost to that, and we may not know what it is because we're too caught up in the negative, right? But if we were to come together and band together, and like you said, people, we do naturally want that. And I know that because people are joining sororities every day, right? Yeah. People are making all these posts on Facebook saying that they want friends. People are just yearning for a sense of community. When COVID happened, people are saying, oh my God, I just need to be around people. Like, we literally were created to need each other. And the whole concept of, I think that, like you said, okay, when it comes to social media, I think right now it's a fad. Like I got pinged into a clubhouse and the topic was, are you really my sis? So I looked at the girl who pinged me in, and she happened to be my sorority sister, but I don't know her, right? So I was like, oh, this is like a sorority thing, fine. And then she was like, no, this is about, so that's, because she was like, what did you think when you saw this title? And I was like, well, I looked at your profile, you're my sorority sister, so I figured it's about sisterhood or whatever. And she was like, no, it's actually about, are you really my sis? Like, I'm not talking about being sorors. I'm talking about how on Facebook, you'll see people, and on Instagram, right? Say, hey sis, this and sis that. And she was like, but that's all publicly on Instagram, but in private, where are you? You liking everything, you know, you commenting, you telling me I look cute, but then somebody told me you was talking about me last week. So you don't have to do both, right? You could have talked about me last week and then not commented and said I look cute, because now that's just a facade. If you're gonna talk about me, stick to that. Right? Or, you know, you like the picture when I put up when I was traveling, but then when I put up the picture about my business, there was no likes. But I know y'all saw it. So like when it really comes down to it, are you really my sis? And I thought that that was a really good question, right? Like when it really, are we women, like you said, women supporting women and women empowering women, all those taglines, that actually hashtags that I use often, right? But are we doing that when it's convenient, or are we doing it when it's tough? Are we doing it when my sis doesn't believe in herself? Are we doing it when my sis just launched her business and, you know, she's questioning if she should even continue? Are we doing it when, you know, my sis just got a divorce? Are we gonna be the sis then? When my sis just found out that her child has some horrible disease, you know, and she's trying to figure out if he's gonna make it or not. Are we showing up then? Because if not, then everything is just for show. So I don't know how we get past that, like how we can make it for real.
I think it all goes back to our heart. Like we've really got to heal what's ever broken on the inside of us, or we're still going to see generations manifest with the same issues. It's just out of control right now. You've got mean girls at every time I look, there's like a mean girl. I'm like, oh, she's mean, nasty. But to the world, she's like great. Like her brand is impeccable. I'm like, well, she's mean, nasty. But it's like also too, we've got to go to therapy. Willing to have those tough conversations. Like, hi, Sherry, you really hurt my feelings when you said XYZ. And Sherry got to respond, girl, you stupid. Like, that's not what I meant. Now, Sherry's got to respond, like, that was not my intention. Let's talk it out. Instead of us not going months without talking and then acting like that never happened, because we never healed or we never overcame that issue, because I'm still carrying resentment in my little backpack that I carry on my back. So it's until we're ready to heal completely, I think we can't fix that, because I don't use the word sis for everybody. If I say it, I mean it. Those are the people that can call on me. If I say, hey, sis, you can pretty much use me for a reference, because I mean it.
Yeah, I'm the same way too. I don't use the word friend or sis loosely. And actually, I remember when I was in high school, when I was a freshman, my brother was concerned about me being in his high school. And he connected me with this young lady and said, like, she's going to be your big sister. And I was like, absolutely not. And I said that because I only grew up with a brother. So I know what that dynamic is. And I absolutely adore my brother. My brother was my first friend. He is my personal mentor. He's my brother. He's my counselor. Like he's a lot of great things. And I hadn't really seen a lot of positive sister relationships growing up, you know, mainly in my own family, right? But that's just something that I had yet to really witness. And I even more so would witness a lot of young ladies say, oh, I don't hang with girls, or I can't be friends with girls. Girls are just too much drama. Girls are just too much. Girls are just all those things that I said that parents or teachers say about young ladies. That's what I would hear these young ladies say. So I had no desire to have a big sister, right? But the good thing is that the girl who he connected me with, you know, she was like, oh, I'm your big sister, right? And, even to this day, we are still friends, and she still will text me and be like, oh, I'm your big sister. And she played that role so well that I was like, maybe sisters aren't that bad. Maybe they're not. You know, she had to show me something new because, like I said, everything that I saw, it just really wasn't something that I was interested in. And so she really had the love and care for me that my brother did. So that kind of helped me just kind of open my eyes and say like, okay, this could be something positive, you know, this could be something nice. And actually her group of friends were the same way too. And they embraced me and did the same thing. And I'm still connected to all of them now. And every time I see them once a month, I go hang out with them and they'll be like, oh, I listened to the podcast. I did this. You know, I bought this, I bought the mug, I bought the shirt, because they just want to support, because that's what big sisters do. Right. But, what you also said about, you know, just talking things out and the whole concept of saying what the intent was. And for me, the intention has to match the impact. Like those things have to be in alignment, or at least they have to be intended to be in alignment. And the accountability piece has to be there as well. So even if you have a positive intention and the impact ends up not matching up, being able to say, let me correct or let me right the wrong in the impact and make it right for my sister. Yeah. But yeah, and I will say this too, Lakita is another person that came up to me and said, you're going to be my little sister. And I was thinking like, oh no. But you know, here we are 6 years later, child. And I absolutely am like, yep, that's my big sister. Because I just think that it's one of those things where you have to, again, for me, be willing to look at it a different way. But I will say that any time when a new female wants to be a friend or a sister or something like that, I clench up. I'll be like, oh my God, what's going on? Because it's almost like my body goes into a threat. Because I'm like, what is this going to be? But over the last 5 or 6 years, it's been pretty positive. Like I've been able to connect with some really amazing, dope, positive women. So yeah, so how do you filter out who's cis and who's not cis?
Sometimes I don't always know. Mm-hmm. Because you'll come at me as a certain way and present yourself a certain way, but you get filtered right on out. And for me, it's just, if we're in the same, like I'm really bad about everybody's around me. Like I connect people, and sometimes I have a hard time on filtering out who's cis and who's not cis. But I'm not as quick to call you cis anymore or friend until I'm feeling like we're in a good space. Sometimes that's 2 years, but it's like, do you connect with my family? Are we kind of like-minded? Are you goal-oriented? I'm not saying if you don't meet those criteria that you're not going to be my sister or my friend. It just might not be right now. So I might kind of keep you at bay, because I feel like birds of a feather flock together, and I know where I'm wanting to go right now. And if that's not where you're wanting to go, I would be off focus. So if you could help me get to my vision or keep me accountable, more than likely you're my sis. You're somebody I'm talking to every day because you're asking me how I am towards my goals, versus my friend that just wants to go to the club and they're like, let's go get drinks. And I'm like, that's really not furthering me towards what my life's vision is. And then also too, not telling me that people think I'm weird. That's one way I filter you out. When you tell me something, I look at you sideways and I'm just like, I'm not weird. That just means you don't understand me. You'll call me sis, but it's like, you don't understand who I am.
Wait, say more about that.
I've had somebody tell me like, oh, we think you're weird. And I'm just like, you don't need to be around me. I'm not weird. I'm an intellect. Talk to me about reading, going to plays. That's what I'm more concerned about doing, or doing community service. Don't call it weird. It's just something you're not used to. Broaden your horizon. Come with me to a community service project. Read a book with me. But until then, just shut up.
There's a lot of power in the shut up. There's a lot of power in the shut up.
That's exactly what I told them. You can only imagine. It was like, but I'm like,
but honestly, I tell myself to shut up a lot. throughout the day, because I think that there's a lot of power in the shut up, because again, you don't want to be against someone. Like if you don't know something, you want to ask clarifying questions, like help me understand why you do that, or let me learn more about what you do, or let me kind of see into your world. And I agree. I think that everyone wants to be seen, right? And everyone wants to be understood, but there's work involved to get there and to do that. And for me, how I've been learning to filter out who's cis and who's not cis, or who's quote unquote high value or not. I don't necessarily think that people are low value, and I don't think that people that are not cis are not good people, right? They're just may not be my tribe. Is who, it goes back to one of the things that you said, is who is about my purpose. Because if I feel like somebody is my cis or my, they're connected with me, I want to do whatever their vision is, right? Like Lakita cannot call me and tell me something that's a vision that she feels like God gave her, and I don't do it. And I tell her, like, I don't understand it, but I'm just going to do it because, I believe in the vision, and I feel like that's how, for me, I know if you're about my purpose, like the people that sow into my dreams, the people that sow into my purpose, the people that hold me accountable to my dreams and my purpose, because I feel like those are the people that God is like, this is your tribe, because they're going to get you where I'm trying to take you.
Yeah. And those are the people I typically run from, because sometimes those people that are doing exactly what you just said, they have a message I don't want to hear. No, they message, but I don't want to hear it. So then that's when I have those heart issues. But eventually God's like, I put them in your life for a reason. And they'll just keep telling me month after month after month the same thing. I'm like, oh, finally, my stubborn self, like, I'm going to do it. Like working on like the $0 budget. That's what I'm on right now. Every dollar counts, my bad. But that's because somebody that's in my tribe heard me say like, oh, I want to buy a house. Oh, I want to do this. They listened. And then they've kept me accountable. I just did a check-in on Sunday. Doing, I'm like, oh, I'm doing better than I expected. I'm not where I should be, but she was like, I thought you might fall off the bandwagon. I was like, oh no, I'm still there. I'm thinking about every dollar counts. But those are the people I've started to surround myself with. I mean, if I wanted to go to the club right now, I could have 10 people that want to go. But when it comes to me wanting to know how to build generational wealth, that number dwindles down. And that's a shame. And I'm, from a standpoint, looking to surround myself with people that are more so like that.
Absolutely.
But I still love my other people, because if you've been rocking with me since day one, I'm never going to discount our relationship. Am I going to hang out with you every weekend, going to the club? No. But we may hang out every now and again, because I still value that relationship, because you knew me when I was at my lowest point. So why wouldn't I take you with me when I'm at my highest point? Just how we interact is going to be different. I'm never going to get rid of, this is bad too, I never get rid of anybody. Because sometimes God uses me to heal them. So some of my friends are cyclical. They come in and out, like when they're depressed. But I'm not like, oh, she only calls me when she's depressed. I answer the phone because I never know how I'm going to impact their life. They need that encouragement from me. But somebody's also my light. If I'm going to be their light, I got to be a light for somebody else.
That's true. Absolutely. You absolutely got to be a light for somebody else. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think for me, some people I have to learn to love at a distance. If it's going to weigh on me too much. But I agree. I feel like every relationship, good, bad, ugly, and different, impacts you, right? And makes you who you are. There might be some growing pains and some hard times, but nonetheless, it is what it is, and you have to accept it, right? So I certainly agree with that, but I do know that for me, I have to have boundaries.
I'm learning to create those, because normally people, whether I'm chairing a committee or chairing a board, everybody has full access to me. But I also learned that I can't operate on empty if I poured into everybody else. I have nothing to give myself at the end. I'm somewhere tired and sick. So I'm learning how to set boundaries, and being able to say the word no is okay. But that's tough. And I think too, as women, again, I think I thought I was being a mean girl by saying no to somebody and not supporting their vision and giving it my all, but I'm really being mean to myself.
That's good. When are we being mean to ourselves? So I think that we probably all can play the mean girl at some point, right? We can all play the high value girl at some point, but when are we being mean to ourselves?
Is when I tell somebody I can do something and I know I can't, but
Mm,
I'm gonna stay up to midnight and do it. Or when I'm not holding people accountable
mm,
and I'm just as busy as they are, but I'm just pulling their weight. And I think it all goes back to that accountability piece and me just not saying no. And then also when things are out of alignment, knowing when it's time to go.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes we stay in the wilderness, I like to say. For a long time, God gave us signs, but we just keep staying. So I think that's when we're mean to ourselves. Because
Mm,
sometimes, like, I can say I was in the wilderness for like a decade. There was no reason for me to be in the wilderness for a decade. God gave me sign after sign. He was probably like, my poor child, let me come down here and slap some sense into you.
right.
But it took me a while to get out of it.
Yeah. It's hard when you don't want to see things, right? Um, this whole concept of being mean to ourselves. So I was listening to something, it was along the lines of hurt people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird because some people, when they're hurt, they hurt themselves, and some people, when they're hurt, they hurt other people. Both in both instances, you're still hurting people, right? But I always wonder what makes some people, when they're hurt themselves, and like you said, maybe not say no, maybe not have boundaries, maybe not go when it's time to go, right? And then what makes some people actually inflict pain on other people because they're hurt.
I think when we're doing it to ourselves, it's a sense of control. Some
Mm,
people that do it to themselves is because they don't feel like they have any control over anything. So one thing they can control is if they're going to not say no, or they want to feel valued,
mm-hmm.
they want to be seen, basically, or they want to be in like what they consider the quote unquote in group. But that those are some reasons I think too. It's like you want to be seen, but is being seen really that important? Because 9 times out of 10, if you're the one behind the scenes doing the work, they don't recognize you. I've seen that several times. They throw you in the back. You look at pictures, you're in the very back. Everybody that ain't done any work is that's not even proper English, but we're gonna roll with it. They're up front, they're the picture takers and they're getting recognized. I'm
Right.
like, that's not how it goes. And then I think people that hurt other people is because that's what they've seen their whole entire life. Like their dad may have hurt their mom, or somebody may have hurt them, and they like if you hurt me, like if you were 5 and you hurt me and saw me cry, you might have liked the reward of seeing me cry, so you're going to continue that cycle because you like the gratification. It makes you feel I'm great because look, I didn't make her feel some type of way, because you're making yourself, because you don't have any self-esteem for yourself or self-respect. You feel like you have power over somebody. It's all about power and control. Why we either hurt ourselves or we hurt other people. That's
Mm,
why the mean girl thing happens, because it's about power and control. You don't want to give up your power or control.
hmm.
And it's just a cycle. If I see that Sherry's going to be a bright, shining star and she's going to outshine me, I'm going to keep her down. I'm going to control her. Oh, you didn't do that right. Oh, you're not doing that right.
Interesting.
I
That's
see
good
it.
insight, V.
Yeah, I see it a lot. It's like a cycle. I'm going to treat you bad because you might get bigger than me. When really our goal as leaders, as women, we need to make somebody greater than ourselves. Have enough confidence in yourself to make somebody greater than you.
And you know what? That is by far I love how you said that. That by far is one of the things that I've been seeing in some of in some of my new relationships. And by new, I mean last 5 or 6 years. Like that's one of the things that really, like when Lakita was like, you my sister, at first I was like, nope. But then when I saw how she operates and how she moves, I was like, yes. And then there's another young lady, she was actually on our podcast, Talena, um, she and I we did an ongoing service project with each other with Black Achievers. We were working with the teams, and I was like, oh my God, I just love her spirit. Like, she literally, if she sees you working on something or doing something, oh, you ain't gonna do it without her. You know, she's gonna make it great. She's gonna take whatever good was and make it great and be like, all right, and literally not get any credit, not care, whatever. And I think that that's also another key characteristic, right? Is somebody who's not afraid to pour into your dream, knowing that they don't really get a benefit from it. You know, like, they'll sow a financial seed, they'll give their time, they'll give their energy because they want the thing that you want. You said you want this, you said this was your purpose, you said this was your vision. Cool, I'm about it.
So true.
I don't know what else to say after that. I think that was a mic drop moment. I think that's it. I think we can move to the to-go box. So what are we going to take away from this discussion on mean girls and high value women?
I think just a couple of nuggets for me is that seek therapy. If you see yourself going back to your 9-year-old self, or when you were bullied, or when your mom told you you weren't pretty, or etc., get therapy, because therapy is healing. Also, too, that you are worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And your worthiness is not from you making fun of somebody else or putting them down or shaming them, because that does happen a lot. You don't have to be mean to be a leader. You can be nice and be a leader and still have the same respect from the people that are following you. Actually, you'll have more respect because it's not fear. Don't transpose fear with respect, because it's not the same. And then 2, value yourself. Don't let anybody else place value on you. I think that that's so important. But when you're bringing something to the table, especially in like relationships, whether it's female or male, that you're bringing the same thing to the table, or at least that's one of your goals, and be agile and willing to make those changes that you need to make to be better. And I think that that's important. And listen without a judgmental ear. I keep talking, I will talk all night, because I feel like it's important for us to really heal that mean girl.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's a number of things. I feel like you said so many things when you said that it's a heart issue, right? And that it's not checked when you're really little, right? So it's probably the girl who's making fun of another girl's skin complexion or her weight, right? Or her nose, her eyes, something physical about her as a child, and then it just later manifests into something else. So I think that it's just about realizing that we all need to evolve, all of us, right? The mean girl, the high value girl, whatever. We're all of them, all of us women are really all of these women that we're talking about. We're all the mean girl, we're all the high value girl. Or at least we have been at some point. So it's just about evolving, doing the introspective work, and really looking in when we are playing the mean girl and asking, what made me do that? What is my heart issue, and how can I repair that? And how can I break this cycle? How can I make sure that my children and my grandchildren don't repeat this cycle, because it's toxic and hurtful? And I think it's also about, like you said, intentionally aligning ourselves with women who are not afraid to make us bigger, who are not afraid to pour into our visions, dreams, and goals, because they don't feel that it will minimize their own. I think that when you said that, I was like, that's the 2-minute Veeism, the next episode. No, that was good. So that's my takeaway. Alrighty. Well, thanks for tuning in to Brunch with Besties podcast. Until next time, peace.